Let's dive right into this explainer, because today we're unpacking a case that is absolutely heartbreaking and, honestly, just chilling to the core. We're looking at the tragic story of two incredibly bright young PhD students down at the University of South Florida and the shockingly dark digital trail left behind by their killer. This is a story about how modern forensics, digital footprints, and just one crucial eyewitness account managed to unravel an absolute nightmare.
What happens if a human is put in a black garbage bag and thrown in the dumpster? Take a second to process that. On April 13th, 2026, in a quiet corner of Tampa, Florida, a user typed that exact horrifying sentence into ChatGPT. And when the AI actually responded by warning the user that this was dangerous and morally wrong, the user didn't stop. They didn't even hesitate. Actually, they immediately followed it up with this. How would they even find out that I did that thing? The pure, cold premeditation here is just staggering. This wasn't some sudden crime of passion. Before anyone was even reported missing, before the police were ever even involved, someone was literally sitting behind a screen, workshopping a murder with artificial intelligence. Part 1. Two promising students vanish.
Now, to really grasp the gravity of that dark search history, we have to jump forward 3 days to April 16th. Let's talk about Nahida Brishti. She was a 27-year-old chemical engineering PhD student who came to the U.S. from Bangladesh in 2025, carrying all these huge expectations from her family. She soon met Jaminul Liman, who was also from Bangladesh, getting his PhD in geography and environmental studies. Because they shared the same culture and language, they kind of quickly became a home away from home for each other. They fell deeply in love, their families completely approved, and they were planning to spend the rest of their lives together.
But then they just vanished. On April 16th, Nahida missed a planned meeting with a friend, which was completely out of character for her. By the 17th, police are searching her workspace on campus, and they find her lunchbox, her iPad, her MacBook. I mean, think about it. Nobody voluntarily abandons their daily essentials like that. This immediately proved to investigators that whatever was going on was totally outside her routine. And the scariest part? Jaminul was missing too.
Section 2. The dangerous roommate.
So, with both students missing, police naturally turned their attention to the Avalon Heights apartment complex where Jaminul lived. Jaminul shared this place with two roommates. One was a student named Rashid, and the other was Hesham Abu Garbia. And we need to contrast Jaminul and Hesham for a second here. Jaminul was this super stable, focused academic. Hesham, on the flip side, was a 26-year-old USF dropout. His life had totally spiraled due to severe cannabis abuse, which brought on these incredibly aggressive behavioral changes. It got so bad that back in 2023, he faced misdemeanor battery charges for attacking his own mother and younger brother. He'd even been heard screaming in the middle of the night that he was God. After doing a diversion program for a later burglary charge, his family was just terrified of him. That's exactly why he was living with Jaminul and Rashid. They were basically walking on eggshells around this guy. Out of pure fear, they had actually just filed an official complaint against him with the apartment management. And that brings us to a massive breakthrough. Rashid, the third roommate, gives investigators this chilling eyewitness account. He tells them that on the evening of April 16th, literally the exact same day Nahida and Jaminul disappeared, he saw Hesham hauling these heavy cardboard boxes out of his room and just dumping them into the apartment complex's trash compactor. When police finally searched that compactor on April 23rd, the contents confirmed everyone's worst fears. They pull out Jaminul's glasses, his wallet, his USF student ID, and, honestly, most disturbingly, the torn shirt he was last seen wearing, and it's covered in blood. They also found Nahida's phone case and a heavily soaked floor mat. This was the absolute, undeniable proof that Jaminul and Nahida were victims of foul play, which instantly escalated their status to endangered.
Part 3. Tracing the digital footprints.
Okay, so now the police have their prime suspect, Hesham, sitting right in the interrogation room. But how do you break a suspect who refuses to talk? You use their digital footprint against them. It really goes to show just how inescapable our modern data trails are. During questioning, Hesham was totally cold, non-reactive, claiming he hadn't seen Jaminul at all. But police had already cross-referenced the GPS pinging from Jaminul's phone with the traffic camera data tracking Hesham's Hyundai Genesis. The locations and the times matched up perfectly, tracking all the way to Clearwater, Tampa. When police drop this on Hesham, he panics. He changes his story, says he went fishing, then flips it again, saying he actually did give Jaminul a lift. He was caught in just a massive web of lies. Now, while detectives are keeping Hesham busy in that interrogation room, another team is hitting his apartment with a search warrant. The second they walk in, it just reeks of deep cleaning products. But, bleach doesn't erase everything. Investigators pull out the luminol spray, and what they find on the floorboards of Hesham's bedroom is straight out of a horror movie. A massive, glowing outline of a blood pool shaped exactly like a human fetus. Hesham's frantic scrubbing had literally just pushed the blood deeper into the wood grain. That specific shape told them that a bleeding body had been folded up and stored right there for a long time.
24. That is the exact number of hours police had to place Hesham under strict, round-the-clock surveillance after letting him out of that interrogation. You might be wondering, why didn't they just arrest him right there? Well, despite the bloody shirt and the luminol results, the actual forensic reports weren't fully processed yet. Legally, without the victims' bodies or absolute definitive proof of murder, they couldn't hold him. So they had to let him walk right out the door, watching his every move, waiting for a slip-up while desperately searching for those bodies.
Part 4. Gruesome Discoveries and Arrest. That desperate search quickly zeroed in on a very specific spot, again thanks to Hisham's GPS data, pointing them right to the Howard Franklin Bridge. On the morning of April 24th, police divers are searching the dark water near the bridge, and they find an unusually heavy black trash bag. Inside was Jamanul's body. It was severely degraded from the saltwater, but it showed signs of blunt force trauma to the liver, and his legs were practically severed just to force him into the bag. 2 days later, on the 26th, a local fisherman found another heavy bag tangled in his line. Dental records confirmed the heartbreaking truth. It was Nahida.
But where was Hesham while all this was being recovered? Well, after getting out of interrogation, he didn't even go back to the apartment. He broke into his family's home over in Lutz. The very next morning, wearing literally nothing but a towel, he tried to assault his own younger sister. Thankfully, she managed to lock herself in her room, and his brother called 911. Knowing exactly how unhinged and dangerous he was, police took zero chances. We're talking SWAT teams, negotiators, bomb squads, drone units, the whole shebang. Realizing he was totally surrounded and out of moves, Hesham finally surrendered.
Section 5. A dark digital premeditation.
So with Hesham behind bars and the bodies recovered, you'd probably think, okay, case closed. But then, investigators pulled the data from Hesham's phone, and what they found proved this was a highly calculated execution. This wasn't some sudden argument that went sideways. Hesham had been preparing. On April 7th, he's ordering duct tape on Amazon. On the 11th, trash bags and lighter fluid. On the 13th, he's making those chilling ChatGPT queries we talked about at the start of this explainer. By the 15th, he's looking up how to change a car's chassis number and how to keep an unlicensed gun. And then, on the 16th, the actual night of the murders, he orders DoorDash, but it's for cleaning supplies.
He tried his best to delete his search history, but forensics recovered every single bit of it. And honestly, the searches he made after the murders are maybe the most terrifying of all. Stuff like, has there been someone who survived a sniper bullet? Will Apple know who is the new iPhone user? Is there a water temperature that immediately kills? These searches paint such a horrifying picture, guys. They strongly suggest that if the police hadn't connected the dots and tracked him down exactly when they did, Hesham was actively planning to keep killing.
Which brings us to the final haunting question of this explainer. Why Nahida? It's pretty easy to see why he might have targeted Jamanul, right? Jamanul had filed a complaint against him, and Hesham was deeply unstable and prone to violence. But Nahida? The tragic reality, based on all the evidence, is that she was likely just in the wrong place at the wrong time. She was probably just visiting Jamanul, and Hesham, having already set this deadly plan in motion, just couldn't leave a witness behind. 2 incredibly bright futures, 2 PhD students who crossed oceans to build a life together, completely extinguished because of one man's dark, calculated descent into madness. So, what do you think? Could a tragedy like this have been prevented earlier when those warning signs were clearly flashing? It's definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and stay safe out there.